Hi, I'm Johnny and you're watching the Hexy Beast. And today I'm going to be reviewing this game right here, Rallyman GT. And also as an extra surprise, we've upgraded the channel a little and we've got a new intro. So, without making you wait any longer, let's get on with it, shall we? Okay, so the first thing you want to do in Rallyman GT when you're about to start a game is build a track. I've built a custom track here, one that I've decided just to chuck a couple of few tiles together, and this is the one we're going to be playing for my example. The next thing you want to do is choose a vehicle and tyres. For the sakes of this video, I've chosen to go for a tarmac tired green car. In the solo game, you're always going to be putting your car into pole position, which is the one on the inside of the track right by the start line. Okay, so once you've chosen your car, you want to make sure you have a set of speed dice, we have a set of braking dice, and we have a set of coasting dice. As well as that, you're also going to want to get your corner markers out of the box ready for play. You're also going to need a pile of focus tokens as well, and I'll explain how these work later. Okay, so the basic premise of this game is you're trying to get around the track as fast as you can, and you're trying to do it in as little turns as you can. And the way you do this is, first part of the turn, you would plan your turn. So for example, I would move into first gear in this space, second gear in this space, and then third gear in this space. And then I would roll each dice individually. So we have one hazard straight away, 2, 3. Okay, so we were fine there. So what we would do now is we would take the number 3 corner marker and we would place that into the space that we ended up in, reminding us what gear we would start on our next turn. Also, I can choose to go flat out, and instead of rolling my dice one at a time, I can roll all 3 at once. But it's much more risky, but as you can see, I succeeded this time. So because I succeeded and I rolled all 3 at the same time by going flat out, not only do I move to my new space and put the marker there, I also gain 3 of these focus tokens. You basically gain focus tokens for each dice you roll when going flat out, apart from these red braking dice over here. Okay, let's now talk about taking corners. As you can see, we've got a corner by here, which says that we need to be in first gear to get round it. It takes less time to go around the inside of a corner than it does around the outside, as you can see here, as it would take me 2 spaces to get around the outside, but if I was able to get on the inside and down to first gear, I would be able to go around there. So the way I'm going to accomplish this is, first I'm going to go down to second gear, and then we'll go down to first, but you may notice that I can't put another black dice here, and this is where these white dice come in, these coasting dice. So I'm now going to use one of these to coast around there in first gear and by here. So now when I get round this corner, I would mark my turns with this marker. So I'm going to go flat out again, and we're going to see how this goes for us. So we will end in first gear because we used our coast dice. Oof, only one hazard this time. So we then move our car to the space that we said we was going to, which was by here. As you can see, this space by here is marked with a dotted line and number 1. That means if we were to approach it from this lane, we would have to be in first gear. But as you can see, we've started on first gear. I've moved into second gear in this space, and then I'm going to move diagonally into the corner in third gear so that I can get through this corner pretty speedily, actually, because we've got a nice straight ahead. So I'm going to diagonally come out of it. So we're going to put the 4, the 5 and the 6 out this time. Meaning that we're going to finish this turn, hopefully, if the dice go our way, on 6. Basically, if we have 3 or more hazard symbols, which is denoted on the card you're using, see, if we have 3 of these hazard symbols when we roll, we will spin out and we will crash. So, let's see what happens, shall we? I'm going to go flat out again because, you know, you only live once. Only live once, of course. So, here we go. Oh, this is going to hurt if this doesn't go well for me. Oh, okay, we have 2. It was a close one. We didn't spin out this time. But, for the sake of argument, let's say we did. And at the point we would then check the dice that we failed on. And the first gear that we're in when the third symbol gets rolled would be the one we would use to reference the damage sheet. Okay, so the first thing we do now is, as you can see, we can see the third hazard symbol came out when I was in 5th gear. So we would then reference the character sheet, and I was in 5th gear, and we would also reference the icon in the corner of the map tile. In this case is red. So I crashed in 5th gear, which basically means I am now going to have to put a double 0, which is worse than a 0 because you flip it to 0 next turn. And because I was on a red spot, I'm going to draw 3 damage tokens from the bag. Now this would be a good time to explain damage tokens. Okay, so because we crashed, we're going to have to draw some tokens from this bag. There are a few kinds of tokens that you're going to be able to draw. And we have these here, which represent damage to the vehicle. So it would remove one of our dice, each, depending on the colour they come out. And this one changes weather. This one is a yellow flag, which basically means that only cars in 0 or double 0 may be overtaken. It doesn't really affect us in the solo game, so we're basically treating the weather and the yellow flags, which are the same as green flags, which are basically blanks, nothing happens. So what we would do, because we've been damaged, is we would pick out these 3 tokens that we was asked to off the character reference sheet. So we got a white damage, a red damage, and a green flag. So we're going to lose both one of our braking dice and one of our coasting dice. Because we've crashed, instead of being in the 6th gear like we would have been by here, we are now actually going to have a double 0 and be off the track facing backwards. And this will change in the next turn when our double 0 will switch to a single 0, and we will start facing forwards on the track. Then it won't be until the next turn that we'll actually be able to start placing dice again and making our way around the track. So as you can see, spinning out is quite a big risk. Okay, so in between each turn, you're going to be marking down on one of these kind of sheets. This is one I've printed off BGG, by the way. You're going to be marking down which gear you finish each turn in. And basically the way score is determined is once you finish your lap or your race, each gear is worth a certain amount of time. The aim of the game is to finish with the least amount of time. So if you decide to do a 1-lap race, for example, you would mark down however many turns it takes you for each gear, and then at the end of the game you would total all this up to get the total time. Also in the solo mode, these focus tokens, these things, are worth seconds at the end of the game also. That's why it's always worth taking risks, especially when you're trying to do a time trial. Now that we've dealt with spinning out, we can now continue to work around the track. So I've planned my next turn going from 1st to 2nd to 3rd so we can approach this corner in a high enough gear to cut this one. And because I am actually a little afraid that I might get 3 hazard symbols again, I am going to spend 1 focus to lock in this 2. And I'm also going to spend another 2 focus to lock in the next dice in the sequence. When you spend focus to lock in a dice, you have to roll all remaining dice one at a time, so you cannot gain more focus by going flat out. So we're just going to roll this 1 this time. Cool, that was a nice easy pass for us. So we're just going to place our number 3 token before this corner, and then we're just going to move up. Like so. So as you can see, I'm about to go through this corner, but from this dotted line and number, it shows that we can't actually enter the corner from this lane in anything above first gear. So this is where the braking dice come in. So I'm going to place the number 1 on this space along with 1 braking dice. So anytime you need to move down more than 1 gear, you would need to spend a braking dice. So you would spend, to go from 3rd to 1st, for example, would be 1 braking dice. But if you needed to go more than 2 gears, it would be an extra braking dice for each 2 gears. So to go from 4th to 1st would take 2 braking dice plus the 1st gear dice. We can roll these and go flat out altogether, or we can actually use a focus token to remove them. But in this case, I'm actually just going to go flat out again to gain some more focus. So we're just going to roll all of them together. Okay, it looks like I made it through. So we are now finished by here in 1st gear. Okay, one thing to bear in mind when you are, spending focus, for example, and gaining it, is that you do not gain focus for braking dice. So even though we rolled 4 dice in the last turn, I'm actually only taking 3 focus. Looks like we're on to the final stretch. And seeing as we're in 1st gear, first dice I'm going to put down is a 2nd gear. I'm going to come out diagonally into 2nd, 3rd, 4th, coast to 5th to 6th. See, it's a shame now, isn't it? Because if we had that extra coast dice, we could have actually finished on this turn. Now you understand the problem with losing our coast dice. So, as I usually do, because I like to take risks, I'm going to be going flat out this time. So, but before we move on, don't forget, we should mark that we're finishing in 6 by here. Okay, so roly, and oh, we spun out again. We spun out again, but this time, remember where our coast dice was? We spun out, and we finished by there. So, our coast dice is what caused us to spin out, so we are now here. So, it's pretty obvious we haven't done super well in this game. So, let's just, should we just call it a day there and say that our car was written off? And we're going to get back to the shelf now. I'm going to tell you what I think of the game. Okay, so that was a bit of gameplay from the game. Now it's time for me to tell you what I think. So first, for aesthetics, I've decided to give this game an 8 out of 10. This is mainly because, as you can see, it comes with a lot of nice things. It comes with a cloth bag. We got the nice tiles themselves, which are actually double-sided, and you get plenty of them. On top of that, I think the models for the cars, although quite small, I like that they didn't just go for different colour plastic, and they've actually made them all look a different shape from each other. So anyway, that was aesthetics, and now we're going to be getting on to gameplay. I think although this game is actually quite simple, my cat is causing noise over there. Although this game is actually quite simple to play, there's plenty of choices to be made while you're playing it. I like the risk-reward mechanic of either going flat out or rolling your dice one at a time. So for gameplay, it's been given a 8. And now we're going to move on to accessibility. The great thing about this game, it's a dice game. It's pretty much as simple as learning the focus mechanic and then just throwing dice and seeing what you get. I think this is a great game for beginners. And if you have just the smallest bit of interest in motorsport, it is absolutely perfect for you. Yes, it is a bit of a beat your own score game, but there are automas out there on BGG should you fancy racing other racers. Also, if you think you've enjoyed this review so far, my friend Mark over at Not Board Gaming has also done a more in-depth review of this game, and I'll leave a link to his video in the description. Okay, so that gives this game a grand total of 9.3 out of 10, which if you ask me is an amazing score for an amazing game. I've really enjoyed it, and if you've been really enjoying this video, please feel free to smash that subscribe button up there and check out another one of my videos right up there. Anyway, thanks for watching, and most of all, stay hexy everyone.